Good afternoon. Calling back into order the Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting on November 20th, and I'll turn it back over to the judge for our hearings.
Thank you and good afternoon. The next matter is the petition for early termination of probation of Emmanuel Garcia. Good afternoon, Mr. Garcia. Madam Corp, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. We are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences to review the petition for early termination of probation of Emmanuel Garcia. This is Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2025-100-977. My name is Christopher Dietrich. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I have been assigned to preside over this matter. Before we went on record today, it was established that a quorum of the board is present. May I please have the appearance of our court reporter?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Christina Rodriguez, CSR number 14898.
Thank you. And may I have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Steinheimer. I'm a supervising Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public and assist the board with fact-finding.
Thank you. Also present today is the petitioner, Emmanuel Garcia, and you have chosen to represent yourself today. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay. Before the hearing, before we went on record, I explained the procedures that how the matter will proceed. The Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to present the petition and provide an orientation in this matter. After that, the petitioner has the right to make a presentation under oath on his own behalf to explain why he believes he's entitled to the relief sought in the petition. You may also call witnesses to testify on your behalf. The petitioner and any witnesses who testify will be subject to questioning by the board members and the Deputy Attorney General. The board is particularly concerned with rehabilitation that the petitioner may have engaged in. Petitioner is reminded that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition package, and it is not necessary to repeat what is stated in the petition package. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate, and you will receive a decision in writing sometime in the future. Did you have any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And if you do have questions that relate to the procedural aspects of this hearing, you're welcome to ask them, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. I will now hand it over to the Deputy Attorney General. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Petitioner was issued an Associate Professional Clinical Counselor registration in October of 2021. The registration was canceled when petitioner was issued a licensed professional clinical counselor license in April of 2024. That license is scheduled to expire in April of 2026 unless it's renewed. An accusation was filed on December 8th, 2022. It alleged that in August of 2022, petitioner was convicted of a misdemeanor count of driving under the influence with a blood alcohol level of 0.20. In July of 2025, his request for early termination of criminal probation was granted. Previously, in April of 2021, petitioner was convicted of one misdemeanor count of possession of a controlled substance, marijuana, in Utah. Prior to that, in February of 2018, petitioner was convicted of one misdemeanor count of driving under the influence.
Just a tad bit slower, Mr. Steinheimer.
Thank you. With a blood alcohol level of 0.08 in California. For that conviction, he was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Effective July 27th, 2023, a stipulated settlement with the board, between the board and petitioner became effective, and he was placed on probation for 5 years. The probation is set to expire in July of 2028, and so there's approximately 2.5 years that remain on the probation term. Now petitioner is requesting early termination of probation. He was ordered to participate in psychotherapy, which he has been compliant, and the psychotherapy requirement was reduced to once per month starting in August of 2024. He was ordered to complete remedial education regarding substance abuse, which he completed in or about March of 2025. He is required to submit to biological fluid testing and tests approximately 36 times per year, and he's been compliant with that testing. He is required to participate in a dependency support program, which he is compliant and attends twice per week. And then he was ordered to pay costs of $1,761 And so far, he has paid $961 as of September 16th, 2025. And so he's compliant with the cost recovery requirements. Next, I would like to go through the exhibits and ask that they be admitted into evidence.
Go ahead.
Exhibit A1 is the notice of hearing, which sets forth today's date and time and location as the hearing on this matter, and we ask that that be admitted into evidence.
For each exhibit, Mr. Garcia, I'm going to ask you if you have any objections to the board considering and reviewing that document. Do you have any objection to Exhibit 1?
No objection.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Exhibit 2 is a license certification for Mr. Garcia, and we ask that that be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection to Exhibit 2?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Exhibit 3 is a case summary that was prepared by the probation analyst, Amanda Cantrell, and we ask that this be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 3 is admitted.
Exhibit 4 is the petitioner's petition for early termination, and we ask that that be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No.
Exhibit 4 is admitted.
Exhibit 5 is petitioner's statement supporting his petition, and we ask that that be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No.
Exhibit 5 is admitted.
Exhibit 6 is a collection of documents that were submitted by petitioner that support his petition, including completion of a 18th-month DUI program, as well as letters of support. And we ask that this document be admitted this time.
Any objection?
No.
Exhibit 6 is admitted.
Exhibit 7 is a psychotherapy information sheet submitted in support of the petition, and we ask that it be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 7 is admitted.
Exhibit 8 is a record of the criminal conviction. We ask that it be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 8 is admitted.
And then finally, Exhibit 9 is a copy of the disciplinary documents, including the original accusation and the decision and order. And we ask that that be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 9 is admitted.
And that is all of our exhibits. And so now I turn it over, Your Honor, to swear in the witness.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name for the record.
My name is Emmanuel Garcia. That is Emmanuel. Last name Garcia.
Thank you. Now is your opportunity to present your petition to the board and explain why you believe you're entitled to the relief you seek in the petition. I ask that you be mindful of speaking slowly and clearly for myself, the board members, and our court reporter. With that, you may proceed.
Thank you. I do have a written testimony that I'd like to read to all of you today. Before I do, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to present myself to you, Your Honor, and members of the board. My apologies, I just get a little nervous, so just give me a minute. In addition to my written statements, I do want to share the deeper growth that has taken place throughout this entire process. This by far has been one of the hardest chapters of my life, but also the one that has transformed me the most. Before this probation ever began, I was already questioning my relationship with alcohol, what it meant for me personally, and what it meant within my culture. As a first-generation Mexican-American and child of immigrants, alcohol was embedded into every part of my life, into my neighborhood, at school, in family celebrations, to witnessing adults in my life using it during times of stress, grief, and family challenges. Specifically, I watched the men in my community use alcohol as the only outlet they knew. And even though I saw the harm growing up, I still felt the cultural pressure to be macho, to fit in, and to belong. Growing up emotionally unsupported while witnessing marital conflict, infidelity, addiction, and street violence shaped me in ways I didn't understand until now. Mental health, vulnerability, and sobriety were never talked about in my community, amongst family, friends, and at school. I assimilated to that environment, and eventually, alcohol became the place where all of my internalized experiences came to the surface. My second DUI was the breaking point for me. By that point, I had done everything right. I had achieved success through becoming the first in my family and in my neighborhood to go to college. I had joined a fraternity, I had studied abroad, taught English abroad, completed a master's degree, and even started a full-time career. And yet, I was still suffering internally. I finally had to admit that alcohol was harming not only me, but the people around me too. And it took a lot of courage to admit this out loud and recognize the impact of my alcoholism. I began my sobriety journey on February 1st, 2022. That's the night after the DUI incident, and that's where I consider my work actually beginning. Early sobriety came with many challenges, such as unemployment, financial strain, moving away from my hometown, navigating legal mandates, and being placed on this probation. One of the most difficult moments came in November of 2023 when I was hospitalized for 4 days with DKA, a life-threatening diabetic complication. And at that point, I was diagnosed with late onset of type 1 diabetes. I suddenly had to learn how to live with a chronic condition while maintaining my physical, emotional, and professional responsibilities. It was overwhelming, and I could have easily derailed my progress. Instead, I leaned in on my partner, my therapist, the AA community, and my faith. That experience reinforced my commitment to living a healthy, sober, and purpose-driven life. And throughout this process, my values have strengthened. These values of honesty, humility, accountability, patience, and hope have guided my decisions ever since I started this work. Therapy has been the biggest foundation into this journey, and I continue to engage in it to process trauma, cultural pressures, and emotional patterns. I also remain connected to the AA community, to mentorship, the church, community service, and wellness practices such as cold plunging, running clubs, and sauna social events in my community. These communities keep me grounded and aligned with my sobriety and my recovery. Throughout my consistent work and therapeutic work, I have developed more awareness of my triggers, most of which stem from my childhood trauma, emotional absence from my parents, and generational patterns of alcoholism. Today, when I see those patterns still show up in my family system, I respond with emotional regulation, communication, and boundaries, not self-destruction. That shift is one of the clearest indicators of how much I've changed throughout this process. What matters most to me now is my family, my fiance, building a home, personal growth, and contributing positively to my community. I'm engaged now. I'm planning for a future with children in the picture, training for a marathon in 2026, staying active in the wellness spaces, and building a stable, loving foundation for my life. Professionally, I am growing my private practice with the long-term goal of becoming a group practice. I plan to continue my education, earn certification in dual diagnosis, and eventually teach and mentor the next generation of therapists. I've also become more open with my story so that other first-generation Latino men can see that healing and sobriety are possible. I've done this through guest speaking events and public social media content aimed at reducing stigma. Moving forward, my life is centered on purpose, connection, empowerment, love, and growth. I plan to continue individual therapy for emotional growth and recovery maintenance, stay connected to the AA community and church for my spiritual health, and remain engaged in the wellness communities that support my physical and mental well-being. Additionally, I plan to stay a member of the California Association of Licensed Professional Clinical Counselors for ongoing professional development. Your Honor and members of the board, I do believe that I am no longer someone who poses a threat to the public. My decisions, my lifestyle, my relationships, and my career are all rooted in accountability and responsibility. I am ready to continue moving forward. My recovery and my professional life no longer rely on being monitored. They rely on the values I've built and developed and I live day in and day out. Thank you so much for your time again and for your consideration. And I am very open to clarifying and sharing a little bit more about my story.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Steinheimer.
Mr. Garcia, can I just ask you a little bit about Radiant Health, the business you have started? Can you explain what you do and what your vision for that is?
Yes, it's Radiate Hope Therapy.
Sorry. Yes.
That's okay. And that is my solo private practice as of right now. I am a licensed clinician and founder of the practice. So through my practice, I do focus on providing individual therapy and family therapy services. Some of my work consistently focuses on dual diagnosis treatment and mental health support. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. And then you're also employed currently at Pacific Blue Psychological Services, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what do you do there? Can you tell me about your practice with Pacific Blue?
Yeah, I'm also a licensed clinician with that group practice. And what I currently do there is I work at assisted living facilities in my community to go and support those, the elderly population. And I do offer individual clinical therapy support to the elderly folks at the assisted living facilities.
During the course of your probation, you've also had a couple other jobs, it looks like. One would be with WellCore Psychological Services.
That's correct.
Can you tell me what you were doing there and then why you left?
Yeah, so with WellCore, I had transitioned into that role when I left my prior position. I was moving cities at the time. I was living in the Valley of Los Angeles, and I was moving to West LA to be closer to my fiance's job at that time. And I made that transition to that. It was an online telehealth therapy group practice. And during my role there, I was still a licensed clinician. So I was meeting with individual folks that would come to the practice to get individual therapy support. And I was managing and maintaining a caseload of 15 clients per week. The reason why I left that role, it wasn't meeting my financial needs at the time. And at that time, my fiance was also in transition out of her job. And so I needed to reconsider what I was doing and looking at other means of income in order for me to pay the bills and continue paying rent and et cetera. So the reason why I left that role was particularly to start looking for other opportunities. It was very difficult just given my background and the challenges that it comes with when I do present myself to potential employers. And so that really reinforced me to continue focusing on building my solo private practice.
Okay, thank you. As for Radiant Hope, what do you have any employees or partners in that business?
As of right now, no. It's just myself. I'm self-employed through the company.
Okay. I noticed in your application for early termination, you mentioned that you have a pending license application with Oregon, the state of Oregon.
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit, do you intend to practice in Oregon, or how does Oregon fit into your plans?
Yeah, so moving forward, I am now licensed with the state of Oregon. I was officially licensed during the month of August. And so I started already practicing in the state of Oregon through telehealth services. So I do currently have 2 clients that are from the state of Oregon. And my plan was for me to just broaden my opportunities and continue to expand my caseload in my individual practice.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned that the date, the February 1st, 2022, that's your sobriety date?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that. It's almost 4 years.
Thank you. I know I'm very excited for that.
With respect to maintaining your sobriety, it sounds like you participate in AA.
I do, yes. It's part of the conditions for my probation.
Can you tell me about the frequency and what you do with the AA?
Yeah, so I attend AA twice a week. And as of right now, my engagement in the rooms has been mainly just being there to observe everything and essentially feel not alone in my experience, and just essentially be around a community that understands some of the similar alcoholic challenges that come with sobriety and navigating sobriety even once you let go of the substances. So as of right now, my association with AA has just been being in the rooms, feeling in a quote unquote normal with my experience and just getting support with listening to other people's stories and feeling empowered and knowing that it's possible to continue to live sober with the remainder of your life if that's the course that, you know, God gives us the opportunity to continue to live.
Okay. You mentioned that you're attending twice a week because that's what's mandated
Mhm.
by your probation. If the probation was ended early, would you plan to continue to participate in AA?
I do plan to continue, not probably as frequent twice out of the week. I am currently trying to balance and manage my weekly schedule and my routine and a lot of responsibilities that I still have now and what my goals entail. So my plan would still be to stay involved at least once a week, and on the weekends would probably be my preference of choice just moving forward.
Okay. Apart from AA, can you just, you mentioned the wellness community, your church and family, but can you describe, I guess, a little bit more about your social and safety network that's helping you maintain your sobriety?
Yeah, so my social network, a lot of my friends that are still back where my hometown is, which is the Inland Empire, and I moved to the Los Angeles County. I'm still very connected to them, and a lot of them were friends that I developed throughout college. They're my fraternity brothers that are now like family to me, and they've been a witness to me being an alcoholic to going into sobriety. So I still do rely on them for support. They still are very understanding and very supportive in me taking this step for myself. And so that's a huge support system that I have. A lot of those friends that still are there with me from college. My family, as of right now, my family still is in the Inland Empire and I'm in the Los Angeles County. So what I've mainly been doing in LA County has been involved in like run clubs that happen at least twice a week in my local community. I live in West LA, and so I'm really close to Venice, and there's always a lot of wellness events happening and activations that brands do. And so I always like to engage in those free events so I can just go and connect with other people that are also maintaining their emotional well-being and just living a sober-free lifestyle, even if they're not navigating with addiction or in recovery themselves. I just like to be around that environment.
Okay. And then you're also undergoing psychotherapy, which I believe is currently once a month. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's once a month. And as of right now, too, with my current therapist, I also do like coaching sessions with him. So sometimes I meet with him at least like 4, sometimes 5 times out of the month. That's just an additional thing that he offers. So I really lean on that whenever I do need additional support.
You said what kind of sessions?
Coaching sessions.
Oh, okay, coaching session. Okay. If your probation again was ended early, would you continue to see this person as a psychotherapist?
I would, yes. I'm currently meeting with Ramon Matos, and he has been tremendously helpful in this experience so far. So I've already had this conversation with him, and I still plan to continue meeting with him, and keeping that same frequency too. Once a month has been manageable for me and my finances right now.
Okay. And my last question really is just why are you asking for early termination of probation? What is it that you need to do? Why do you need to be off probation now?
You know, I thought about that question plenty of times, and there's just so much that comes up for me. And I think what I really want to share is just professionally, once this upcoming year comes in April, I am going to be eligible to supervise others, but having the probation be on my licensure, that's going to hinder my process in that aspect. So I definitely still want to move forward with being able to supervise associates and future therapists. Professionally as well, I'm in the process of getting certified with the National Board of Certified Counselors, but it's been over a year since they've been able to accept my application due to this probation still being open. And on a personal level, it's just been very spiritually and emotionally draining on top of a financial strain. I do live in Los Angeles with my fiance, and I do want to build a family with her one day. And essentially build a home. And right now, just having this extra cost in my finances has just been a barrier in achieving certain goals. And so just removing and lifting this probation would be helpful in that aspect too. And I think that's all that comes to mind in terms of like why I would like this lifted now.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony, and I'll turn it back to Your Honor to let the board ask questions.
Thank you. We will now proceed to questions from the board. As before, we'll go to my right, starting with our chair, Ms. Strack.
Wendy Strack, Board Chair. Thanks for being here. I wanted to, you talked in your testimony about sort of your support system and the stress, the stress relievers, your sort of coping skills and coping behaviors. Can you share a little bit more about how that helps you navigate through challenging times?
Yeah, definitely. So usually in the past, when I used to deal with the stressor, my common response was often withdrawing and isolating, also shutting down in some form. Emotionally, I wouldn't be able to connect the experience with my emotions. And so now being able to identify what's coming up for me in that moment and knowing what to do to just soothe my nervous system and regulate that emotion has been tremendously helpful in just how to respond to the circumstances that I'm facing. Even now, I just have to continue to, take my deep breaths and, speak to myself in some way, like take my time. And that has been really a huge part in not reacting immediately, not acting impulsively, not instantly giving up with what's at hand, sometimes responding with a more wise choice or more informed choice when I am acknowledging my emotion, and also just seeing how I want to move forward with it has been helpful in not making the matters worse, whatever that scenario may be.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. I'll pass it along to my colleagues.
Hi, John Sovak, LMFT.
Hello.
Thank you for being here today. Take a breath. We're all trying to work together here.
Thank you.
I do have a few questions for you. And with any of my questions, I do give you complete permission to say I choose not to answer that. So I want you to know that as we move into this.
Thank you. Okay.
So you talked about your participation in AA being more of an observer role.
Yeah.
Can you deepen that description for me?
Yeah. So the reason why I say that is because I am very familiar with the 12-step, 12 traditions, and have familiarized myself with the culture and the norm of the AA and in the rooms being in there. And so I haven't personally walked through those steps and have not had a sponsor up to this point. And so that's why I say that I usually just sit and, I do talk to the other folks that are in the room, and, that's very helpful in terms of connection. But in terms of still being of service and giving back in those rooms specifically, I find myself just being an observer and being there. And at some point, I do still want to give back within that community specifically. I just don't know in what role I will be taking. I'm still navigating that, being a licensed clinician and making sure that doesn't mesh into the AA community. And it's still something that I'm figuring out in my process.
And just to make sure I heard this correctly, you have not done steps or traditions,
Not fully, no.
but you have not personally
Yeah.
done the work. Okay. Is that a choice?
Is that a choice? Initially it was. So during my first year of my sobriety, I was having a hard time with admitting that powerlessness of alcohol and really identifying myself as an alcoholic. Like, it was extremely hard for me to really just be honest and with myself and with others about my circumstances. And so at the very beginning, I was a little resistant to taking those steps. I still showed up in the rooms and really, try to challenge myself to be open to seeing like how I can be of support in some way and just get the support, because I was struggling immensely at that time. And during that first year, I moved around several times in Los Angeles. So during that first year, I had started therapy prior to this probation. And that therapist was more helpful for me in making the life transition into my sobriety. And she also started challenging me a little bit more with being open to receiving support through that AA community. And so at that time, the meetings that I was attending, I stopped attending because I moved to the Valley of Los Angeles. I was living in East LA then I moved to the Valley. And while I was in the Valley, I was doing that 18-month program. So that 18-month program that was mandated through the Court of Pomona for the second DUI, that's where I gained a lot of the recovery focus support when it comes to AA, because I was working closely with drug and alcohol counselors, and they were all in their sobriety. And so they introduced me to the 12 steps, 12 traditions. They were doing group therapy sessions. And so like all of that was tremendously helpful. And while I was there, I was more curious at that point. So I was open to starting to do the step work. And so I really connected with my counselor at that time, and I wanted to do the step work with him, but it was just he wasn't able to be my sponsor given that he was my counselor. And so I had met somebody else within the group rooms that we would be in, and he himself was very heavy on AA outside of the 18-month program. And I started attending meetings with him in the Valley, and I connected with him as well, and he was almost done with his step work. And once you're done with your step work, you're able to sponsor, and I wanted him to sponsor me. And so that, by the time that had happened and I completed the 18-month program, I moved again. And so those same rooms that I was attending, I stopped attending and I started attending new rooms. So there's just been a lot of like transitions that have happened along the way. Now I am open to walking and working the steps. I just still haven't felt like a connection with a sponsor, have found somebody that I really want to do this work with.
So I just want to be transparent with you. In this idea of applying for early termination, you're telling us you have done the work. And yet in this line of curiosity about how you're using program, you actually have chosen your word not to do a really big component of that particular work. So how do you address that? How do you help like lessen my concerns about that you made a choice not to do a really deep part of this work that you're saying has helped to change you so much?
Yeah, so at first I would say that it was a choice not to. Along that process, I would say around year 2 is when I started to shift more towards being open and really being open to accepting the support and the care from other people that are complete strangers to me. And so this is like my personal like story. And so this is something that I'm being patient with myself and really understanding like this is just my timing. And so to answer the question, when it comes to like me being like a therapist and reinforcing maybe AA being a support system or just dual diagnosis and recovery and maintenance, right? Like I understand that aspect, like, and how it's helped plenty of people and has helped even clients that I've worked with in the past. And so there was a sense of like hypocrisy throughout my experience in the very beginning of my sobriety journey, but it does not feel that way for me now. I feel a little more connected to my experience and to identifying myself as an alcoholic and just seeing that, there's still much more that I can learn and grow and be of support outside of just being a clinician and specifically into the AA and recovery rooms.
And in your statement, you mentioned the concept dry drunk.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit more. What is your understanding of what that term means and how it applies to the world of recovery?
Yeah, so at that time I was meeting with my therapist, Dr. Bruce Derman, rest in peace. He introduced me to the concept of dry drunk, which was initially for me, how I understood it was that the first year I had just removed the substances from my life, and I wasn't fully still doing the emotional work and fully connecting to my purpose and the why I made that decision to go sober. The easiest thing that you can do is just let go of the substances. The work actually begins when you start acknowledging like what led you there in the first place. And so through my work with my therapist, he introduced Dry Drunk, and he named that was what I was doing throughout my sobriety at the very beginning. And that for me was like feedback that like really sparked something, and that started to kind of challenge like my conditioning from my upbringing, from my culture, from all of what led me to where I'm at today. And it allowed me to start being more open. And at that point is when I started to also feel more open to like AA, looking for a sponsor and doing all those steps and being more engaged in that aspect. So Dry Drunk for me was just letting go of the substances and essentially going through the motion, not being connected with your emotional experience and spiritual experience with why you're doing what you're doing and the purpose of it. Yeah, that's how I understood the concept of Dry Drunk.
And then one final question to really help me understand. You have mentioned multiple times your cultural experience. I do not have that shared cultural experience. Can you help me a little bit understand how you believe this has influenced your journey?
Growing up, I didn't see anybody that was sober. I didn't see any adult model emotional regulation or talk about how to support themselves if they were to deal with a life stressor. What I came to learn was that alcohol was kind of always there. And once the alcohol was there, the crying came out, all of the baggage that people deal with in my family specifically started to come out. So I started to associate almost like alcohol as the coping mechanism to what we deal with in our culture specifically. And so as a Mexican American, I do believe in breaking those generational patterns. And that's a huge reason to why I'm a clinician and why I also reduce the stigma through my content creation and also just be so open and transparent with my process up to this point. Like that gives me so much drive, and it just is a huge just a huge stepping stone for me in moving forward with what I want to continue to do for those around me and the communities that I do find myself in.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Hi, Emmanuel. I'm Chris Jones, the LEP member. Thank you for being here today and giving us your testimony. I have no questions for you.
Thank you.
Lorez Bailey, public member. Thank you for being here, Mr. Garcia, and telling your story. One of the things that I wanted to go back to is you talked about familial trauma and the experience of growing up in your family environment. And I wonder, nothing can pull us back like family, right? Like those old triggers, nothing else can do it to us like family, even when we say we have good boundaries.
Mhm.
And especially when you come around like holidays and special occasions, where very often it brings you back into that environment.
Yeah.
So can you talk about to this day, like how that affects your life and how you resist falling back on those old experiences
Mhm.
that family very much can pull us back in?
Yeah, of course. That impacts me tremendously, like to this day. And part of like my therapy support is helpful in that aspect too. I still go back home for the holidays, for family gatherings, for a lot of birthday parties, and the alcohol's still there. My father, well, let me start with my grandpa. My grandpa was an alcoholic, and so that caused a huge pain on my mom, and my mom witnessing the same patterns with my father being an alcoholic himself. It just continued to cause this pain that my mom would carry. And even now, like my dad still drinks and he has some health complications and he still is unable to cut back on the alcohol. And so when being at these family events and seeing the patterns still be there, it hurts. It makes me sad because like I'm trying so hard to change and like show them that like it's possible to change, and also expose them to like how we can get support and move forward and not let these patterns continue to hold back our healing and our growth, and essentially just be more connected as a family. So in those moments, I have to do a lot to practice my self-regulation. I have to remind myself even before going to these events, how long I'm going to be there for, what am I going to have in my hand, how am I going to navigate any stress that comes up. And there's been plenty of times that stress does come up, like most previously going to a family gathering for my nephew. He just turned 18, and seeing just within that family, I'm going to just say this. So being at this party, my nephew's 18, and I have my sibling, 3 older siblings, my sisters, his mother, and there was some underage drinking happening there, and the adults just kind of letting that happen. And that's not something that really aligns with, again, what I'm trying to do for others and what I'm trying to like change even within my family system, just by simply doing the change and modeling to like my nephew and modeling to my nieces and, the younger generation, that they don't need to continue to go down this bloodline. And so just witnessing that, it makes me sad. It makes me angry. I feel like immediately wanting to almost like respond in a way of like blaming them and guilt tripping them, but I hold myself back from that because, again, like I'm in my process and I need to know how to process my emotions and not let it continue to hinder my family system. And again, I use that therapy space to really do that, talk about this, and know how to prepare for these events and know what to do for myself even after, and just know what's within my control of what I could do, and still be of support to my family and still expose them to the possibility of change and providing them resources and educating them, because that's not something that ever existed, even in my upbringing, was the resources and other ways of doing things.
Is my mic on? I have another question which might seem off, but I have experience with type 1 diabetes in my family, and getting that diagnosis older when you've got a lot of other things going on is a big deal. That's
Yeah.
a chronic lifetime illness you have to manage. Can you talk about getting that news and having to like think about your life, and that can be stressful, it can make you depressed. It's a lot to manage.
Yeah.
So you talk about how you've been managing that amongst all this other things that you have going on in your life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with me too. When that first happened, so my therapist, Dr. Bruce Derman, again, at that time, he himself had type 1 diabetes, so he was very helpful in just helping me learn about the diagnosis itself. I was meeting with an endocrinologist and a nutritionist when I first made that transition, so I just remained open to getting that support to fully understand how to live with the condition. At that point, it was hard for me not to think, here's another thing to add to the weight that I'm already carrying. Like, why me? Like, I just want to give up at this point. Like, there's no hope. I have not seen anything that has really like helped me see that it's worth what I'm doing. And so I decided not to do that. I relied on my faith. I relied on my fiance, and I did rely on my therapist in helping me get through that moment specifically. Now, it's been 2 years since I've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And at first, that whole first year, even before all of this happened, I'm very big on fitness and nutrition. And so it just helped me like almost stay in alignment with what I'm doing with my sobriety, with my wellness, with my recovery. Like it just is another reinforcer of like why I need to continue to do what I'm doing, because my life depends on it. It just made it much stronger for me to continue to show up the way I have been. And after that first year happened, I started reintroducing myself to fitness. And before, I was a runner and I had already ran 2 half marathons, and I really wanted to run a full marathon. And I had to cut back from all of that. And so it was a very difficult transition, and just learning patience, learning hope existing, like that really helped me. And being open to the resources that were provided to me really helped me get through the beginning. And I'm still navigating it now. I mean, checking my blood sugar before while I'm sitting down and just making sure that my blood sugar is not dropping low and not going high, and all those other things that you need to be mindful of when it comes to managing your condition. So I hope that answers your question, and thank you again for sharing that with me.
Thank you. No further questions.
And before we hand over to Ms. Thies, I do want to state for the record, Chairwoman Strack had to step out. As such, she will not be able to participate in the deliberation in this matter. Go ahead, Ms. Uribe. Ms. Thies.
Rebecca Thies, public member. Thank you so much for your testimony today and for speaking so openly. Really appreciate it. I'm curious when you got your master's degree, just trying to understand your timeline. Your first DUI in 2018, was that prior to that?
Yes, it was right before I applied to my master's.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your master's is in what again?
It's in master's in dual concentration, so that's professional and school counseling.
Okay.
So would you like for me to respond now?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
So when I initially applied to my master's program, it was a 3-year program. I had no, at that time, desire to be a clinical counselor. I was going in to be a school counselor. And so part of my story in high school, being the only one in my community and in my family to go to college, I had a lot of adults not believe in me doing that for myself. And so I never really had an adult to really motivate me or inspire me. And at that time, I was working as an academic advisor for middle school students for a TRIO program. And that helped me see that I was helping these middle school students with their academics. And it just reminded me of like, well, this is exactly what I needed. You know, I'm showing up for these kids the way that I needed someone to show up for me. And so that really drove me to apply to a master's program in school counseling. And so that program, it's no longer dual concentrated. So it was clinical counseling involvement. So there was a lot of courses that I took that was clinical counseling focused. That program opened me up, and being an academic advisor also broadened the horizon for me of like, there's only so much I can do with these kids through their academics. Like some of these kids were starting to come to me talking about suicidality, talking to me about alcohol abuse, talking to me about self-harming. And at that point, I didn't know how to respond or what to do with that being an academic advisor. Like that was just completely out of my scope, you know. And so once I started my master's program and I started to learn more and more about mental health, about treatment, about clinical counseling, going through that whole program just broadened me up and really empowered me of like, you know, I want to do more than just be in the educational setting. Like I want to be at the root of why these kids are failing in school, you know, why their performance at school is not where it could be. And so that's essentially what led me into the field from the beginning.
Great. And then I found a number of the letters in your exhibit very compelling. One is from the California Association for Licensed Professional Clinical Counselors. I believe the name is Daniel Stewart. Can you describe more what your relationship with him is like and what that organization does?
Yeah, Dr. Stewart, that's my mentor. He was my academic advisor during my schooling in my master's program. And so he's still a professor now at the Cal State University San Bernardino and is now the program coordinator of that program. So I've stayed connected with him throughout my whole experience. From being in school, he was the first person that I opened up to about my first DUI at the time and me being very concerned about what that meant for me in the career setting. And he, since then, has just been very helpful in moving forward and helping me see, you know, the power that I bring into the room and like what I can do for other people and not letting this define who I am as a person. And so now I stay connected with him. I still consult with him now, given that I have my private practice. I still am able to give him a ring, text him, and consult with him on cases if I ever do have any ethical dilemmas. And he's also been very supportive in my process, given that he wrote me a letter of recommendation. And the California Association of Licensed Professional Clinical Counselors, that is an association, of course, to like network and to also just stay in the know of like any legal changes that are necessary for us as a profession to continue to uphold by. And so I also appreciate like other resources that the association does. And my mentor, Dr. Stewart, is involved in that. And he's someone that I aspire to be like. So I really see myself being where he's at and how much he's shown up for his students and just in his work of how he is as a person. So yeah, he's a huge support system.
My last question is just about your solo practice. How many clients do you have?
As of right now, I have 11.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Garcia, thank you so much. I must say that I appreciate your testimony and you being here today. You have expressed yourself and answered our questions so thoroughly that you've answered mine. So I don't have any to ask you at this point. So I appreciate everything that you've brought forth today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Kelly Rona, senior public member. I would echo the comments of Dr. Walker. I just have one quick question. You paid about $1,761 in probation fees, and then you also paid $3,025 in drug testing fees.
That's correct.
That's nearly $5,000, and that all hit you around that 7-month period in 2024.
Everything's blending together that it's hard for me to know because there's just been so many costs that has happened for me outside of what I'm dealing with here. So I can't fully answer that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I have one last question. The marijuana conviction, was it a misdemeanor or an infraction? Because it indicates you just got a fine.
I'm not really sure how the state of Utah fully works, to be frank with you.
Okay. And so it wasn't a California conviction? it
No,
was a
that
Utah
wasn't
conviction.
California. That was the state of Utah.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of
No further
course.
questions.
Ms. Friedman.
Hi, I'm Susan Friedman, a public member. I really appreciate your being here today and sharing as much of your story as you have. I just have one question. Right now, you're in solo practice. You talked about how difficult it was to find jobs and you decided to do solo practice. You have 11 patients. How would your life change if you were to not be on probation?
Yeah, so at some point, I stopped applying to therapist roles when I made the transition from the Valley to West LA when I initially moved there. I did not initially want to open up a private practice right away. It was a goal of mine. I just didn't expect for it to come sooner. At that time, I was applying tremendously to a lot of different roles, and I got rejected and denied a lot of times, more than I can count, due to the probationary status, because once you go into a group practice or even somebody else that's independently practicing, in order to get credentialed with insurances, you need to get approved in order to do that. And a lot of the group practices I was applying to work directly with Kaiser, and Kaiser specifically does not allow no clinician to be on probation. And so that hindered me from getting any particular role that was full-time, that met my financial need at the time too. And I kind of lost my train of thought. Do you mind repeating your question?
My question really is how your life what would you change?
Oh,
if
okay,
you
there
were
you go.
to not be on probation,
Yeah.
being that you're in solo practice now.
Yeah, thank you for repeating your question. Yeah, so I do want to be in a leadership role at some point. And, as of right now, I would like to still have my individual solo practice, but just due to my finances, I am looking for other roles, either working with a group practice or working at a treatment center. But the treatment center, I had to take a step back because they need to get approval from the California Department of Social Services, and that's also been a hindrance. And with group practices, they're looking for someone to supervise clinicians if you are looking for a leadership role. And so I would like to remove this, so by the time it comes where I'm eligible to supervise other associates, I won't have this to deal with because it's coming up this year. So it would change for me in opening up more opportunities and applying myself more to potential employers.
So would you give up the private practice?
No, I would still do that part-time. I just want to get myself back on my feet financially, essentially, and once I am able to do that and be able to cut back from a full-time role again, I do still envision long-term that individual solo practice that I have now to be a group practice. But right now, just being honest with myself, I don't have that capacity to do that. I'm navigating with so much that it's just, personally, I don't want to do that to myself right now. I want to feel more confident in where I'm at in my process before making that decision.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd.
Thank you so much. Most of my questions are answered, but I do have, I guess, a lingering question. And I know you, I think, managed to speak to it pretty well in terms of your capacity to deal with pretty significant stressors, both medical and familial and financial and all of those other things. And I am wondering, when you kind of think of yourself going forward and continuing to go from here, how do you see yourself maintaining that as well as you have presented to do today?
Yeah, well, definitely having that individual therapy continuing to support me with maintenance, continuing to rely on mentorship, on staying connected with my support systems now. And my faith is a huge part of that process, but also my why, why am I doing this in the first place? Like what's keeping me going? All of that would help me continue moving forward. And if needed, right, I have the AA community to be there to lean on. I also know that if I need to make individual therapy a little bit more than that, I would consider like group therapy, because I do like the aspect of like feeling like I'm not alone, given that historically for me, I've always isolated and always just dealt with that loneliness. So moving forward, those are some things that I would consider in order for me to support myself and continuing to move forward. And again, before even making any huge transition from going to like solo private practice to like group private practice, I would, like to consult with others that have done it and consult specifically with my mentor too, just to see like what are things that I need to first prioritize before making a decision like that.
Thank you so much. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, did you have any further testimony you wish to give in this matter?
No, I just want to say thank you again, everyone, for listening to my story and giving me the opportunity and also showing grace. I do appreciate this profession very deeply, given that they are very forgiving and understanding, and empathy is very important. So I do see it with the board members. So I just want to say thank you for that and thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Just last check to see if any board members have any additional questions. Saying none. Mr. Garcia, did you have any other witnesses you want to have testify on your behalf?
No, Your Honor.
And did you have any additional documents other than the ones you've submitted previously?
Do I need to have, I think I saw that I needed like 13 copies of like one document. Do I need to have that?
Those are all the documents are provided electronically and everyone has them. So no.
Okay, well, I do have my most updated payment, my resume, and my proof of my professional membership with California LPCC that I'd like to provide, if that's okay.
Do you have a ability to get it done electronically and upload it to our evidence system, or is it purely in paper?
I can do that, and I was trying to navigate that, but I was not able to see like any documents that came up, so I don't know if it was working or
Do
not.
you have a hard copy today?
I do, yeah, I have my copies here.
Mr. Steinheimer, any objection to receiving the hard copy? I'll get it on Case Center.
No objection.
Did you want to look at it first to see if it's, no objection to admitting that document? What?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it, I guess, but
Okay.
if it's what he represented, then I have no objection.
What I'll do, just for reference for the board members, for that one copy, I'll pass it around to look at, but I will need to take it with me to get it onto Case Center, our evidence system. That item will be marked as Exhibit A and will be admitted. Any other evidence, Mr. Garcia?
Does the testimony today count, or
The statement of what you read into the record is not necessary to have a written.
okay, then no, Your Honor.
I'm now going to ask if the matter is submitted. What that means is that the matter has been fully presented. You have had a full opportunity to present the evidence you wish to submit, and that the matter is then handed over to the board for their deliberation and determination. Is the matter now submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Steinheimer?
Yes, submitted.
With that, the matter is submitted. The record is closed and we are off the record, but please stay put for just a moment. Our court reporter may need a piece of information from you.
Could you kindly spell your therapist's name?
Ramon, Ramon, last name Matos, Matos.
And your former therapist?
Dr. Bruce Derman, that's Bruce, last name Derman.
You said DER? What was the last name?
Derman, that's Derman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe that's it.
Thank you. That concludes this matter. Thank you for your time today, Mr. Garcia.
Yeah.
Good day.
Thank you.
I might now pass it back to our chairwoman.
We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back at, we'll be back right about 2 o'clock.
Oh, that was the last one?
Yeah.
All right, it's 2 o'clock. We'll call the Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting back to order, and I will turn it over to our judge.
Thank you. Our final matter of the day is the petition of John Hornbeck Keegan. Good afternoon, Mr. Keegan. We'll now go on the record. We are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences to review the petition for early termination of probation of John Keegan Hornbeck, Keegan John Hornbeck. This is Office of Administrative Hearings case number 20251000978. My name is Christopher Dietrich. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I have been assigned to preside over this matter. May I please have the appearance of our court reporter?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Christina Rodriguez, CSR number 14898.
Thank you. And prior to going on the record today, we established that a quorum of the board is present. May I please have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Yes, good afternoon. Andrew Steinheimer, Supervising Deputy Attorney General. On behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. Also present today is the petitioner Keegan John Hornbeck, and you have chosen to represent yourself today. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. I am, as I explained early at the start of the day, I'm going to give a general outline of the procedures that we will follow. As I explained earlier, the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to present the petition and provide an orientation in this matter. After that, the petitioner will have the right to make a presentation under oath on your own behalf to explain why you believe that your license should be reinstated. You may also call witnesses to testify on your behalf. The petitioner and any witnesses you call will be subject to questioning by both board members and the Deputy Attorney General. The board is most concerned with any rehabilitation that have happened since the prior discipline. The petitioner is reminded the board has had the benefit of reading the petition package, and it is not necessary to repeat what is included in that package. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate. You'll receive a written decision in the mail sometime in the future. Did you have any questions?
No, thank you.
And if you did have any questions throughout the hearing that deal with the procedures that will be followed in the hearing, you are welcome to ask them. Okay. With that, we will now proceed to the presentation for the Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you, Your Honor. Petitioner's licensed clinical social worker license was issued on March 13th, 2018. The license is current and active and will expire on September 30th, 2027, unless it's renewed. In April of 2022, the board issued an order requiring petitioner to submit to a mental or physical examination to determine his fitness for continued practice. Petitioner failed to submit to the examination within 30 days from the service of the order as required, and therefore on June 16th, 2022, an accusation was filed against Mr. Hornbeck. Thereafter, Mr. Hornbeck did submit to the evaluation, and following the evaluation in January of 2023, the evaluator recommended that petitioner should be required to comply with certain conditions in order to safely practice. Therefore, an amended accusation was filed in February of 2023. Following the filing of the amended accusation, the board and petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement that was adopted with an effective date of July 27th, 2023, placing petitioner on probation for 3 years. Some of the terms of probation included a requirement that petitioner comply or submit to psychotherapy, and he has been fully compliant with that requirement. Petitioner is required to attend dependency support program, and he has been compliant with that requirement. He is required to have supervised practice and is in compliance with that requirement. He is required to submit to biological fluid testing approximately 3 times per month, and he is compliant with that requirement, as well as submit quarterly reports, reimburse the board for the cost of probation program, as well as cost recovery from the underlying accusation. And petitioner has paid the full cost of the probation program, as well as all of the cost recovery, which was approximately $7,011. Petitioner's probation is now scheduled to end in July of 2026. So about 8 months remain on the probation period, and he's now asking the board to terminate his probation early. At this time, I'd like to go through the exhibits and ask that they be admitted into evidence.
Go ahead.
Exhibit A1 is the notice of hearing, which sets forth today's date and time and location as the hearing for this matter, and we ask that be admitted into evidence.
And Mr. Hornbeck, we'll go through each exhibits, and at each time, I'm going to ask you if you have any objections to the exhibits being admitted and considered by the board. Do you have any objection to Exhibit 1?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 is a license history certification for Mr. Hornbeck, and we ask that that be admitted at this time.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Exhibit 3 is a case summary prepared by probation analyst Craig Zimmerman, and we ask that that be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 3 is admitted.
Exhibit 4 is the petition for early termination that was submitted by Mr. Hornbeck. We ask that that be admitted at this time.
Any objection to Exhibit
No
4?
objections.
Exhibit 4 is admitted.
Exhibit 5 are documents that were submitted by Mr. Hornbeck in support of his petition, and we ask that those be admitted at this time.
Any objection?
No objections.
Exhibit 5 is admitted.
Exhibit 6 is a psychotherapy information sheet that was submitted in support of the petition, and we ask that that be admitted at this time.
Any objection?
No objections.
Exhibit 6 is admitted.
And then finally, Exhibit 7 is a copy of the disciplinary documents, including the underlying accusation and stipulated settlement and decision in order, and we ask that that be admitted this time.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 7 is admitted.
There's a number of exhibits that were submitted or uploaded by the petitioner, and I don't know if you want to wait for his testimony to go through those documents.
Did you have any objection to any of them being admitted?
No, I've reviewed all of the exhibits, which are identified as B1 through 11, and have no objection to any of those exhibits.
Well, we gave them, I went on to Case Center and relabeled them as letters. So I've labeled them as exhibits A through K. Those items will be admitted into the evidence. Give me just a moment for my notes.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we will now proceed to administer an oath to you, Mr. Hornbeck. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name for the record.
My name is Keegan Hornbeck. It's Keegan. Last name is Hornbeck.
Thank you. Now is your opportunity to explain to the board why you believe you're entitled to the relief sought in your petition. At this point, I will hand it over to you. I ask that you please be mindful of the speed at which you talk. Speak slowly and clearly for myself, the board, and the court reporter. With that, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you to the members of the board for allowing me the opportunity to provide my testimony and evidence for early termination of probation. I want to briefly describe the factors that led to my probation status.
how probation has supported my insight, accountability, and recovery, and why I'm respectfully requesting early termination.
Move to the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better?
Thank you.
In 2019, I was serving as the executive director of a nonprofit organization in South Central Los Angeles that provided housing and mental health support to unhoused families and individuals. The position was both demanding and deeply meaningful, and I truly had believed I had found my life's purpose in social work. Then the pandemic hit. The COVID-19 crisis brought immense strain not only to the clients we served, but also to the staff who were attempting to keep our programs running while working remotely. By early 2020, I was working nearly 60 hours a week, often managing a remote team or taking on their duties with intense stress, while also actively participating in the Black Lives Matter movement, organizing, protesting, and advocating for justice on the streets of Los Angeles. During this period, I began experiencing what I now understand were manic symptoms. I had no need for sleep. My thoughts raced. My speech became pressured and tangential, and I developed intense, paranoid, and grandiose beliefs. I became convinced that I and those close to me were in danger. In that state, I began abusing alcohol and cannabis to try to manage the overwhelming anxiety and energy I felt, which in fact only worsened my condition. Eventually, I resigned from my position after being denied a medical leave, and I called 911 and reported I was experiencing a severe psychiatric crisis, which then led to hospitalization. Afterwards, I lost housing and stability and became unhoused for over a year. The trauma of that experience, especially during the pandemic, was profound, and it gave me a deep personal understanding of the suffering faced by those I once served. Over time, with treatment and support, I began rebuilding my life. I engaged in therapy, began working again, and slowly regained stability. After the board mandated psychiatric evaluation, I received an accurate diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features. This clarity allowed me to fully engage in consistent treatment, including weekly therapy, bi-monthly psychiatry, and structured recovery support through both AA and the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, or DBSA. Through my participation in AA and regular meetings with my sponsor, I have developed a clear understanding of how I use substances to self-medicate my mood symptoms. And through DBSA, I've connected with countless peers who share their lived experience with mood disorders, which has given me additional community, accountability, and hope. I continue to attend both meetings weekly, and in February of 2024, I was elected secretary of the DBSA in Ventura County. Probation has provided me with the scaffolding I needed to stabilize and grow. It has been challenging at times, particularly the financial obligations and weekly supervision requirements, but those structures have been invaluable to my recovery. They have reinforced accountability, professionalism, and insight. I now understand that complete abstinence from mood-altering substances is essential for maintaining my mental health and for practicing safely and ethically. I plan to continue therapy weekly, plan to continue attending AA and DBSA meetings regularly, and maintain my psychiatry appointments and stay active in the recovery community. I'm requesting early termination of probation, not only because I have successfully met the requirements, but also because the ongoing probation status creates professional stigma and significant career limitations. Simply put, I'm unable to advance in my field, and I've had many challenges trying to find gainful employment while on probation. Ending probation would allow me to use my lived experience, having personally navigated homelessness, severe mental illness, and recovery, as an asset to the field of social work, helping others while strengthening my own professional growth. I am profoundly grateful to the board for the opportunity to demonstrate my rehabilitation. This process has held me accountable and strengthened my integrity and reinforced my commitment to ethical practice. I respectfully request early termination of my probation so that I can continue contributing to my clients and community with the same compassion, humility, and accountability that this experience has helped me to develop. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Steinheimer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hornbeck, I just have a few questions for you. It appears you work currently at Passages Ventura. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you explain a little bit of what you do there and how you use your license in that employment?
Absolutely. Passages Ventura is a dual diagnosis inpatient and outpatient facility focusing primarily on substance abuse, but also working with mental health issues. My title there is primary therapist. So I work with individuals both in the residential setting as well as the outpatient setting doing individual therapy. I run process groups and psychoeducation groups. And then once a month, I facilitate and oversee the family workshop where clients are invited to have their family members attend, where we do family reintegration, therapeutic services, as well as education.
Okay. And am I correct that you've worked there since before your probation started, continuously till now?
That is correct.
Okay. You mentioned in your statement that one of the reasons you want to get off probation is the career limitations. Can you explain a little bit about either the hardships that you've had in what other jobs you were trying to get, or what you would want to do, and/or what you would want to do if your probation is terminated early that you're not able to do now?
You know, I think that my heart really lives in the nonprofit space. Having experienced both sides of the fence regarding houselessness as well as severe mental illness, I think that I would like to eventually find myself somewhere back into that space of working with folks with serious mental health issues, as well as challenging the oppressive institutions or lack of access, the systemic issues that plague our culture, that prevent people from getting the help that they need. I had all the privilege on the planet, and I still fell through the cracks when I experienced the severe mental health issue. Currently, prior to probation starting, I was engaging in therapy, and at Passages, they had asked me to begin supervising interns. Right now, I just sort of feel like I've reached the limitations of what that setting has to offer while I'm on probation. Hoping for one day as I step into maybe a different space, working more with a more focus on mental health and social justice issues, to be able to assume more of a leadership role, including supervision. I was offered a position right when this process was starting, working with the unhoused for Ventura County in a federally qualified health center setting. But unfortunately, because of the probationary status of my license, they had to rescind the offer.
Okay. Have you applied or tried to get any other jobs that the probation has gotten in the way besides that one that was rescinded?
Not since that one. My strategy has been since we signed the stipulation and since I recognized that this was going to be a 3-year process, I really just tried to settle in. I was incredibly grateful to be able to keep my position. I think that I was very valued at Passages. I think that I'm still very valued at Passages. It's incredibly grateful just to be able to keep my position and use all my energy and focus on my recovery from both mental health and substance abuse rather than trying to advance my career at this time.
Okay. You mentioned during your testimony that you've realized that complete abstinence from alcohol and illegal drugs is the only way for you to work with your mental health. Do you celebrate or recognize a specific sobriety date?
Yes, but it's a little inexact because what I count is I count my first day of going to Alcoholics Anonymous. Soon after the board mandated psychiatric evaluation, based on the suggestions of the evaluator, to be honest with you, I immediately gave up cannabis use and very tapered off my alcohol use. I stopped at some point, I believe in January, February, but what I celebrate is March 6th as my sobriety date.
Okay, great. And then talk a little bit about your interaction with AA. Let me ask you, I think I've seen in the documentation that you do have a sponsor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I do.
And how long have you had the same sponsor?
I've had the sponsor for about 2 years now, and we meet every other week in person. And I call them and text them all the time in between our in-person meetings.
Okay, and I think he submitted a letter that referenced you working the 12 steps. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that the 12 steps are incredibly helpful for my recovery.
Okay, are you continuing to work through them?
Yes, I am. It's one of those things that at least it differs a lot. There's a lot of variance in the 12-step programs. There's a lot of variance between how sponsors sort of conceptualize these. But in the school of thought that I'm currently in, like in the sponsorship family that I'm in, as soon as you finish your 12th step, you just go back to the first one and start over again. It's a never-ending evolving process.
Okay, and so currently, are you on a specific step?
I'm on step 6 right now.
With respect to AA, would you continue to participate in AA if it wasn't a requirement of your probation?
Absolutely. It's where not only do I get a lot of sobriety support, but it's where all my friends are now. Coming from off the streets, finding somewhat stable housing in an unfamiliar city and kind of starting fresh. The 12-step program was incredibly welcoming and helpful. I currently go 3 or 4 times a week, which is more than I'm required to do. I certainly plan to continue my attendance.
Okay, and then with respect to the psychotherapy, do you intend to continue to do that as well?
Yes, I have a wonderful therapist that I see weekly. I plan on continuing to see them weekly. That's not because I don't feel like we've progressed on treatment goals. I just feel, again, much like the 12-step experience, like that process is never ending. Like there's always rooms to grow. In the first year of my therapy, we had to spend so much time just focusing on the trauma, the significance of the things that I lost in this experience, as well as dealing with being unhoused. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. I definitely plan to continue weekly therapy for the indefinite future.
Okay, and don't feel like you're rambling. If you anything you want to explain to the board, they're happy to hear it.
Thank you.
You also mentioned that you participate in the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. Can you just explain or discuss that and your participation in that group a little bit more?
Yes, I feel very grateful that I discovered the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance because it's not something that's well known, or at least it wasn't well known to me, but it's primarily, we meet weekly. It's primarily a group of folks that struggle with mood disorders. It's a very wide spectrum. Some folks are dealing with moderate anxiety, whereas other folks have very severe schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. Some folks are on disability, unable to work. Others hold professional careers. But it's a really great place for addressing shame because I get to hear other people's experiences that match my own. Prior to this, outside of a professional setting, I'd never heard of somebody suddenly having a manic episode at the age of 43 and losing everything. My participation has been very consistent with that. I'm actually, like I said in my statement, I'm now the secretary of the Ventura chapter. One day I'd like to start additional groups. I think it would be great if it met more than once a week because I think that limited meeting space can be a barrier for access. But for right now, it's an integral part of my recovery, and I definitely plan to continue going.
Okay. And we've heard about now, I think, AA and your therapy and then the DBSA. What about on a more personal level in terms of like your support network? Like who is there for you in your personal life or where do you turn for support in that context?
Well, if I can just sort of elaborate on the professional support, the psychiatry. I'm really blessed in that I have an amazing psychiatrist who takes their time with me, who answers my phone calls when I have concerns. I've been on medication since I got sober, and there's been lots of experimentation and trial and error because a lot of antipsychotic medication has a lot of uncomfortable side effects and things like that. But I have a very dedicated team, and the medical component, the psychiatry component of my recovery, that will be with me for the rest of my life. Like that's of incredible importance. In terms of my self-sustaining support or my peers, one of the people that submitted a letter is Dr. Beverly Barclay. She was a mentor to me while she was serving as the clinical director of Passages. I probably text with her a couple times a week. I have lots of friends through AA as well as DBSA that I text constantly or that I'm in contact with. I've been able to reunite with my mom and my sisters despite my erratic behavior in the manic episode. And then a huge protective factor is also my relationship with my former spouse and my children. I have 4 daughters, and through that year of being unhoused, I didn't see them. Their mother, for a very good reason, thought that it'd be best to sort of spare them having to see me in that manic and psychotic state. And I see them 3 days a week now. And we have a nesting arrangement where I go and stay at the house for 3 days with my daughters. And they're a huge protective factor and a huge part of my motivation. You know, even when I was preparing my statement, you know, being a social worker means so much to me. But being a father means even more to me. And then in terms of staying motivated for my treatment and my recovery, I have 4 little girls that are depending on me to manage my condition and stay on the right path.
Okay. Thank you. And I think that's all the questions I have for you. So I'll turn it back to Your Honor.
Thank you. We will now proceed to questioning from the board. As we've done previously, I will start with our chair, Ms. Strack.
Wendy Strack, Board Chair and Public Member. Wondering if you might be able to share a circumstance in the time of your sobriety and since undergoing treatment when you've encountered a stressful or potentially triggering event, and sort of how did you address that?
Yes, I think that the biggest, there's been multiple tests. Being a member of a 12-step program and being a member of a mental health peer support program, unfortunately, naturally means that you're going to encounter death. Relapse is part of the picture for a lot of folks, and these conditions that we're all managing are dangerous. And so I've definitely experienced lots of loss throughout my sobriety. But my biggest challenge or my biggest test was when my former spouse informed me that they had met somebody else and were pursuing a romantic relationship and that they were not interested in reconciling the marriage. I really leaned into my support. Like I immediately, I remember very clearly her telling me on Mother's Day and calling my sponsor and then calling people from AA and not even going home, like going straight to where they were just to be around other people. I'm very fortunate in that I don't really struggle with cravings or desire to use substances. Like I look at it, there's a clear line for me. If my mood is unmanaged, if I'm experiencing any sort of hypomania or mania, that's when the dangers of substances come in. And so it's a less exciting answer, but a lot of managing the relapse prevention piece is like a day-by-day monitoring of mood symptoms. But for sure, the biggest tests I've had were with my former spouse, as well as with some of the people that we've lost along the way.
Okay. And how have you found that your experiences have changed how you practice and how you interact with your clients?
Oh, it's changed immensely. I mean, it occurs to me, I started my career as a volunteer, then a case manager, then a program manager, then program development, and eventually working my way up to executive director. The irony of sort of spending, 15 years working with chronically unhoused and seriously mentally ill folk and then becoming one, like it occurs to me now, having lived through this experience, how much we miss, in terms of the symptoms. Like I do get the pleasure of encountering clients at Passages who are actively experiencing psychosis. I cherish those opportunities to meet them with empathy and non-judgment. And I'm very careful with my use of self-disclosure, but I certainly understand. Like I understand on a deeper level what it's like to believe something so deeply, despite the fact that there's all this evidence stating that it's untrue. I don't know if that, I hope that answers your
Thank
question.
you. That was helpful. I'll turn over to my colleague.
I'm going to pass for right now, but I may have some questions at the end.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. I don't have any questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Lorez Bailey, public member. When I'm trying to figure out how to frame this question. A lot of what you've talked about and when you had your crisis and around substance was in a more recent time. But can you talk a little bit about prior to that time? Did you know what your mental health status was? Or did it just come out at that time and you just learned at that time when you went to deep crisis? Or is this something you kind of been dealing with all your life?
That's a great question and something that I've spent a lot of time in therapy looking at because hindsight being 2020 and all of that, I had never experienced any form of psychosis prior to this period of my life. Looking back, doing some of the forensic work with my psychotherapist, as well as having a great relationship with my psychiatrist, I think now I can identify areas in my life where I was hypomanic. I just didn't really suffer many consequences. Like even, I'm also like one of the previous petitioners. I'm also an alumni of Cal Straight Northridge. I also was the winner of like the Gene Daniels Award. I remember like, after earning my hours, getting the notification from the board that I could take my exam and just sort of deciding like, oh, I'm just going to stay up for 4 days and study and then take the exam. And I was successful doing that. Like there was times in my life where I can clearly look and see hypomania. But at the time, I lacked some insight. I wasn't experiencing significant consequences. And I think that I just sort of had this natural belief that it wasn't that different from like the baseline experience of most people. Now I can see it a little more clearly, but for the most part, I started individual therapy right when I got accepted into grad school. One of our first days of coursework, the professor told us you can't be a therapist if you don't have a therapist. And so I was very motivated. And we've definitely discussed elements of past trauma relating to childhood. I've definitely experienced depressive episodes throughout my life, but it wasn't until the end of 2019, 2020 where I experienced this severe of symptoms.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Rebecca Thies, public member, thank you so much for sharing today. I was trying to find the name again of where you were practicing in 2020 and I couldn't find it. Can you remind me where you were employed?
It was called Get Love.
Mhm.
It was a nonprofit. I was the executive director. Unfortunately, I resigned hastily. And 6 months later, they ended up shutting down.
Okay. Thank you. I am curious if there are types of employment situations you would avoid given what you know about your ability to manage some of your symptoms. Are there things that you are aware of that you don't want to do in your practice?
I certainly have preferences. Even where I'm at now, primarily focusing on substance use, it creates a bit of a challenge or a bit of a tightrope sometimes in that I live in the community where I work. And so some weeks I'll do primarily, or usually about half of like the 12-step meetings I attend are in person and the other half are online. And where I meet my sponsor, I'm currently living in Oxnard. I drive to Ojai, which is like a 45-minute drive to me with my sponsor, simply because I don't like running into clients at meetings. I want meetings to be for me and part of my recovery. And if I see somebody in there that to prevent a dual relationship, I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing my personal experience. But to answer your question more specifically, I think that those guardrails are much more about recognizing my limitations. I'm never going to work 60 hours a week again. During the uprising for George Floyd, I just sort of felt invincible and called. And so it was literally, 12-hour work days, get off, drive to downtown, pick up a sign, march. I'm much more aware that my behaviors have a big part to play in whether or not I'm going to teeter into a manic episode. So less about setting or population or diagnostic criteria, but definitely in terms of I'm unwilling to do, I want to work a 40-hour a week. I want to make sure that I allow myself plenty of time for not just the support groups and those supportive relationships, but like sustained self-care as well.
Thank you. That's it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Dr. Annette Walker. Mr. Hornback, thank you for your sincere and very candid testimony. I am really taken aback with your choice of words that I appreciate. You mentioned several times the word grateful, fortunate, privilege, and alluded to the passion for your profession as a LCSW. And I just wanted to just make sure that I'm clear, okay? Because you said that despite your privileges, that you fell through the cracks,
Yes.
okay? Were you referencing the diagnosis of your bipolar 1 disorder or other things as well? Will you say that?
You know, I think that, by the way, thank you for your kind words. That means the world to me. I understand that we were going through a global pandemic and everyone was sort of shuffling, but the fact that I was, with full humility, you know, I was an expert on homelessness. I was an expert on mental health. And when I called 911, I was very clear. I'm not suicidal. I'm not homicidal, but I think I might be gravely disabled. Something's going on with my brain. And, you know, I was hospitalized. I was put on a voluntary, involuntary hold, if that makes sense. Like I initiated it and they put me on an involuntary hold. When I left it, they gave me a piece of paper that said, you have a non-specified mood disorder, go to outpatient. I called outpatient. You know, look at my experience. I want to take full responsibility and accountability. But there was this period of time where I was trying my best to figure it out, and the systems just weren't set up to accommodate me. And so I think that eventually in my career, at some point, I would like to get into more of like the macro and advocacy piece, because again, I usually have the lion's share of privilege in any room I'm sitting in, just because of my identifying characteristics. But if it can happen to me, someone who had all this education and understood systems, it doesn't speak that highly of like what happens when folks experience the psychiatric emergency, how quickly we can intervene and get them back reintegrated with their life.
Yeah, your response speaks volumes to that question. I really, really appreciate you elaborating on that. And also want to thank you for what you just said, thanks to the prompt of your question, that your self-awareness of your limitations kind of bring us present to this moment. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
So.
Mr. Farasanga.
Board Member Kelly Renner-Singer, and I think Dr. Walker explained it right. What I'm hearing from you is you're a better judge of your own internal mood and you're more insightful. And before you fall into those very powerful manic episodes, you're able to activate your coping mechanisms. Does that sound right?
100%. Like, and I know that I hope this doesn't go over. This might not be the best. I always make the joke, like if I ever had a day, if I ever spent one night where I felt like I didn't need to sleep, I would go to the hospital. I'm not risking it again.
And I also wrote down that line, I had all the privilege in the world and fell through the cracks. That was a really good line. No further questions.
Ms. Friedman.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Friedman, a public member, and I really appreciate your insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have just one small question, and that is, you said early on that you were really drawn to the nonprofit world. Is that where you, if you were to get off probation, you would end up?
I believe so. Where I work now, again, I value having a job that supported me throughout this endeavor. I appreciate being able to pay rent and all of those things. But it's definitely, it's helped me recognize like the limitations of sort of managed care, where insurance companies are making a lot of the clinical decisions for us. I do miss the nonprofit world of measuring success and outcomes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Boyd.
Nick Boyd, LPCC member. I'm just going to echo what everybody's already said. And I think I just have a couple quick questions, but the first one is, what would be perhaps some of the warning signs or indicators for you that you may need to seek out that extra level of support, psychiatric care, or reevaluating medications, or anything like that?
Yeah, it's sort of like a twofold path. Like I track my mood every day through a journaling exercise that it's the same format every single day. And one is simply like the hyper arousal piece. Like where am I within my window of tolerance? Because the biggest alarm bell is that if I feel like I don't need to sleep, then there's something that needs to be addressed. And most likely it needs to be addressed medically. Like I need to call my psychiatrist. And luckily I have the kind of relationship with my psychiatrist where I could call her and get on the phone and right away sort of figure it out.
That's great. That's
The
wonderful.
second part is the thinking process.
Yeah.
Like I learned a lot regarding, are these intrusive thoughts? Is this negative self-talk? Where does anxiety start borderlining on paranoia? And that's where my weekly meetings with my therapist is really helpful. Things like, hey, I don't know why, but for the last couple of days, I keep having this fear that my teeth are going to fall out. And it's like, oh, that's a normal anxiety dream versus it's a little bizarre. It's a little unrealistic. We might need to look at that. So it's really the arousal levels of my nervous system, as well as like my thinking processes. And luckily, because of the protective factors that I've developed, both in my personal and in the support community, I have lots of people sort of bounce the stuff off of. I think that I have really great insight. I'm very motivated to not let this happen again. But I also have plenty of people in my life who, if there's people in my life where if I didn't text them tomorrow morning, they're going to call me instead of texting because they're going to be concerned, like, where's our morning text? Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I think it does answer my question. I just getting at the heart of, being able to continue to maintain that, because I mean, what you're managing is significant, and
Yes.
your ability to recognize that and to overcome that and all that you've been through is a big deal. And I commend you for that, because that's not an easy thing to do. And it's lifelong, right? It's a forever type of thing. And I guess that dovetails a little bit into your sobriety and how you ended up on that journey. And I'm going to make the assumption, you please tell me if I'm wrong, that it started during the course of your probation. Is that accurate, or was that something that you were already doing prior to?
That's a great question. So a psychiatrist told me substance is bad, especially with your diagnosis. If you want to have stability, stay away from substances. Even I should put that in air quotes. Cannabis is adding fuel to the fire with some of this delusional thinking. I know it seems harmless or whatever. So the sobriety journey started with the psychiatric conversation, but I think that my actual recovery started because of probation. I think it was the testing, as well as like the not so gentle nudge towards the 12-step programs, that really helped me integrate myself into that community, recognize the benefits, and see that sobriety, someone's talked about dry drunks. I started off with this idea of I need to run away from the consequences of substance abuse, to being able to reframe it as like, no, I'm running towards something much greater in my life, like a better understanding and better self-management, and being able to sort of create the future that makes sense for me.
And thank you for that. And my last question is, was the kind of the circumstances that led you to what you described today the reason that initial psychiatric evaluation was initiated, or were there some other factors that were part of that?
Yeah, it was definitely from a mental health. And the reason, and I know we're not here to relitigate, I obviously wasn't living at my previous address. The key to my PO box was that previous address. And I at the time, even if I had shown up to that first mandated psychiatric evaluation, I believe the outcome would have been the same. Let's get this guy some help. Let's build some scaffolding, make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But certainly, I believe I've addressed those issues, and I'm definitely on top of that PO box now. Like I don't miss communication from the board.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. No further
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you. Mr. Stovek, I know we passed you previously, no further. Mr. Hornbeck, did you have any further testimony you wish to give?
I just want to thank everyone again. I really deliberated because of this is a very personal, specific information about my health. I really deliberated, but I felt that strongly that I could be safe to the public, that I decided to move forward with this petition. I'm hoping I'm hoping that when you consider all the testimony, that it'll make sense. But ultimately, I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be heard and advocate for myself. And I really appreciate this line of, the line of questioning, you know.
Thank you. And let me just double check. Any more questions from the board? Oh, yes. Two. Okay, go ahead.
Rebecca Thies, sorry, I forgot one. You mentioned March 6th, I believe, as your sobriety date. What year was that, just for clarity?
It would have to be 2023. I'm celebrating 3 years this month.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 2023.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Annette Walker, I had the same question. So what was that?
2023.
23, okay.
So this
Thank you.
upcoming March, I'll have 3 years sober.
And any other board questions? Okay. Did you have any other witnesses you wish the board to hear from?
No, Your Honor.
And other than the documents you've already submitted, any additional documents?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm now going to ask if the matter is submitted. What that means is that you've had the full opportunity to present the evidence you wish to submit and that the matter is handed over to the board for their consideration. Is the matter submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Matter submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
That the matter is submitted, the record is closed, and we are off the record. Please stay put for just a moment, though. It's possible our court reporter may need the clarification.
I'm fine, Your Honor.
What, you're fine?
Okay, yes.
And just, could I get the end time page count from you?
Yes. End time is 2:46 and page count is 28.
Thank you. That concludes this matter. Thank you to you both. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And I will now pass it over to our chair.
Great. Thank you. You're
to
free to
go?
go. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, looking at board members, do you need a 10-minute break, 5-minute? Okay. We're going to be taking a 5-minute break and then coming back into closed session. After we finish closed session, we'll be coming back to open session to conduct board business on the last couple agenda items. So do we have to come? Steve, do we have to like come back into session and then go into closed session, or can we go into closed session now? Okay, all right.
And then.
Okay. Yeah, and then,
Thank you, everybody.
all right, thank you. We're going to closed session. All right, welcome back to the November 20th Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting. I'm the chair, Wendy Strack, and we are moving into item 10, except first, I believe we need to reestablish quorum. So,
Yes.
Christina, would you call the roll, please?
Dr. Annette Walker,
Present.
Kelly Ranasinga,
I'm here.
Susan Friedman, Dr. Nicholas Boyd,
Present.
Wendy Strack,
Present.
John Sovek,
Present.
Christopher Jones,
Present.
Larez Bailey,
Present.
and for the record, Justin Huft, Eleanor Uribe, and Rebecca Thies are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 10, discussion and possible approval of the May 8th and 9th, 2025, and August 20th and 21st, 2025 board meeting minutes. Does any member wish to remove or edit any items from the consent calendar? Seeing none, do we have a motion for the consent calendar?
I will move to approve the consent calendar from
May 8th and 9th,
May 8th and 9th
and August 20th and 21st?
and August 20th and 21st. Board meeting minutes.
Do we have a second? Dr. Walker?
Second.
All right, are there any comments from our in-house participants?
Online.
Seeing none, are there any comments from our online audience?
This is the WebEx moderator. The feature is open. You can click on the raise hand to raise your hand if you have any public comments. I see no requests at this time.
Great, thank you. Christina, please take the vote.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Yes.
Kelly Ranasinga,
I'll abstain. I wasn't here in August.
Susan Friedman, Dr. Nicholas Boyd,
Yes.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
John Sovek.
Yes.
Christopher Jones.
Yes.
Loriz Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next is the Outreach and Education Committee update, item 11. Steve, can you provide us with the update?
I can. I'll try to make it short. The committee met on, the Outreach and Education Committee met on September 12th, 2025. And we kind of did a review of the mission and kind of what our goals were for the committee. We did kind of reaffirm that we were looking at enhancing the educational resources, expanding outreach to diverse and underserved populations, strengthening engagement with schools and training programs, and encouraging broader stakeholder participation. Some of the focused areas we were looking at for 2026, we talked about increased live outreach events, so looking at how we can support mental health career promotional efforts by other agencies, how we can work with other agencies to promote the mental health field, improving our website accessibility and navigation, also strengthening partnerships with our educational institutions. And above, another one we were talking about, which I think is important, is raising public awareness for consumer rights. We also talked about AI listening session, and it was an artificial intelligent listening session that we actually held November 12th. It was a success. We had over 500 people actually log into the event. And not only that, I think it was our tester kind of venturing into that WebEx model or whatnot. Not only was it just WebEx, but beforehand, we did actually take a survey. People actually signed up, so we will have some kind of demographic information of who wanted to watch. Additionally, we do have an exit survey that we are waiting for the responses. I think so far we've got about 170 responses asking how they felt about the presentation and what they would like to see more. So it was really our kind of venturing into that, and we are going to capitalize on that next year, not only maybe for additional AI listening sessions, but also for other avenues, some of the licensing areas that we're looking at. We talked about social media. We used to do the Facebook Fridays where we were talking about bringing that back. Facebook Fridays were a live event where we were fielding questions from various types of either licensees or registrants. We talked about not just Facebook, but looking at different modes that we can use that, like WebEx and such. So that's what we're proposing. I think we have something in the works for the next, it might be this month or next month too. So just to start that up again. We talked about kind of the outreach events we went to. We participated in 37 outreach events at the time. And that's kind of the fiscal year. Some of those included we did the NASW Lunch and Learn sessions. We went to some of the lobby days for NASW, statewide MFT consortium meetings. We still participate in those. They invite us all the time. So we go give them a little board update. And we did this one. This is the first year we did this. And thanks for Caesar, who really helped us out on this. It was a YouTube video released in May 25 that guided students through the licensure process and told them about things not only students, but educators should be aware about in the upcoming year. So we're going to probably look at how we can actually utilize that and parse that out into more social media campaigns instead of a full video. And I think that is the end of my report. Any questions?
You have any questions from board members?
Nope. Okay.
I'll skip on calling in-house audience participants because we have none. Moderator, do we have any online participants?
This is the moderator. We do have just a board and bureau relations representative, but I still can call for public comment if you would like.
Sure.
If you are interested in participating, click on the raised hand. I see no requests. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 12, Workforce Committee update. Steve.
Yeah, the Workforce Committee update. We last met July 31st, 2025. The big thing that we're talking about in the Workforce Committee now is looking at the LMFT education requirements and trying to trying to get the best word, streamline it, I guess. So our conversation started out with a quick review of some other states, Oregon, Texas, and Ohio. And we found, well, we know this is one of the reasons we were looking at the LMFT education requirements is at least they are pretty overly complex now. There's 3 different kind of pathways you can get into the LMFT licensure, and it can be confusing. And so after reviewing, California as opposed to Oregon, Texas, and Ohio, it definitely is over complex. What we were looking at, we made recommendations to the workforce committee to kind of consider eliminating the in-state, out-of-state distinctions that we currently have for the licensure requirements, looking at accepting degrees that meet statutory standards regardless of what they're titled. There is a question we're kind of considering is whether we should recognize some of the major accreditation agencies as, meeting those education requirements. Looking at, we made the recommendation also to set minimum unit requirements and modernize the competency descriptions that we currently have in the language. So after that, Roseanne presented a draft proposal of the actual kind of a real skeletal view of what we were looking at to give us something to really talk about. And this consolidates really all the LMFT education requirements into the main section requirements. It would be the most, I guess, common way to get licensed now is the in-state after 2008, graduated after 2018. It's the BPC section 4980.36. So utilizing that as kind of a skeletal model, Roseanne drafted up a possibility of this is what the requirements could look like. Like I said, it's just something to start the conversation. What it does is it applies to all applicants regardless of where the degree was earned. So we get rid of the in-state, out-of-state. It will require 60-unit integrated degree from an accredited or a COAMFD. Commission on, I'm going to have to come back to you on that. Commission on Marriage and Family Therapy Education. Lorez, I'll hit you up with that later on, sorry. And then it allows, looking at allowing for remediation before associate remediation, but making it before you actually are able to get your registration. This is just the beginning of the conversation. So what we'll be proposing is keeping back these subjects at the next workforce committee. It's going to be a long process, but I think it will definitely clarify these education requirements and break down some confusion and possibly some barriers for some individuals. Lastly, part of that discussion was talking about the accreditations, the different accreditation agencies out there. The question is whether they should just be, if they're accredited by certain agencies, should an education program be accepted outright? I think just from the conversation itself, there's a little bit of hesitancy on that because it's really, you don't know, the accreditation policies can range quite different. So, but that is what we talked about, and looking forward to the next workforce committee. I know Roseanne is busy working on the next topics for that. So, thank you.
Do we have any questions from board members? Seeing none. Do we have any questions online?
This is the moderator. If you're interested in asking questions, click on the icon of the hand. No requests. Turn it back to you.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of today, and we will recess until 8:30 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, November 21st. Thank you.